Are we live? Hello. I actually can't tell if we're live. This is how I start every time. Oh, yeah, we are. Yay! Hi. Do you guys like my new teeth? This is awesome, right? I can't. I can only keep those in for like 3 seconds before they start to make me be like, what? Hi everybody. No, we're not live, we're dead. That's right. Good point. I didn't even think of that. The whole stream with the teeth would be a challenge unlike anything I've ever done, I think. So, yeah. Hey everybody. Well, thanks for joining us on a Saturday. I hope everybody's been having a good day. I know the dentist did a great job on my vampire fangs, right? It's a shame I can only wear them for like 3 seconds at a time. Long enough to hunt with. Happy Halloween. It's right around the corner. Halloween's my favorite holiday. This is my favorite season. So yeah, we're gonna be doing some Halloween themed stuff today. We have a fair number of viewers. Where are you guys all tuning in from? I always like to ask that. It's interesting to know before we jump in. How far around the world did we reach? Mustache on or off? I'm gonna leave mine on. Yep. I'm checking our comments. I think my comments are like slightly behind the rest of what I'm seeing. So we've got Texas, Brazil, the UK. Hey, yep. Wow, this started going by so fast. I missed a bunch. Wow, Germany. Yep. Norway. Geez, hi. Wow, everyone. Ireland, New York. Wow. Yep, Tats in Germany, of course. Yep. Hi, it's good to see all of you here. Wow, I see a lot of familiar names. It's good to see you all here. So, awesome. Yeah, if at any point you want to say where you're from, just throw it in the comments because it's exciting. Portugal, cool. Wow, look at that. So, Canada, Georgia, Detroit, awesome. Yeah, welcome everybody. Well, okay. So today we are talking about creating a spooky adventure. And I like to do this almost every Halloween, some kind of either write and release a spooky adventure or talk about writing them. And today we're gonna do something a little bit different. So as you guys might know, we're putting a twist on this adventure we're designing today. So a lot of times if you wanna shake up a trope that's kind of been played out a lot or is kind of typical, you can just flip it on its head and suddenly you have a fresh take on it. So in this case, that's what we're going to be doing. We are writing an adventure that is actually from the perspective of the bad guys. The players are going to be able to play as vampires in this adventure. So if you guys haven't noticed, down in the link, there is a file you can download from Dropbox that has 5 pre-made 6th level Shadowdark characters in it. And those are all vampire characters. So you will notice some interesting things about them. In fact, let me see if I can pull them up for us just to go over. So they are all chaotically aligned, and they all have the vampire tag on their ancestry. So I just want to go over with you guys a little bit what that means for these characters because it's going to play into how we design the adventure. So you can see, first of all, that we're breaking the first rule of Shadowdark already. I feel like I'm allowed to do this, but these vampire characters are dark adapted, so they can see in the dark, which is pretty interesting. So we're going to have to figure out a way to make light interesting, but in reverse, because in this situation, these vampires take damage in direct sunlight. And so I think in this adventure, we should think about ways that we can use sunlight in place of torches as a threat to the characters and as something that will cause them some stress, and so we'll have to think of that. But these characters can also all shape change in place of their attacks into a bat or a wolf, which you can find character stats for wolves in the core Shadowdark rules, and for a bat, if I always use for a generic creature, I just use they have 1 hit point and their armor class is 10, and that's that. So there we go. So you don't have to overdo it. For like a tiny creature like a mouse or something. And then they all have the vampire talent, which is that if they die, they will respawn in their coffins unless killed with a wooden stake. So we're going to be able to see from the maps that I chose, which I'm going to share with you guys shortly, that there are 5 coffins in this adventure. And I want to design this adventure assuming that these vampires might get killed a few times. Like, I don't think we should pull our punches, because I think that with this respawn ability, they're going to be able to bounce back from some mistakes. And so we should definitely use that to our advantage. And that has to play into how we design creature encounters, because if there are encounters of creatures or enemies with wooden stakes, I mean, that's like a death sentence to a vampire, so we'll have to be extra careful here. So, yes, we are flipping things on their heads today. We are the vampires, and the adventure is going to kick off with that. So you guys can check out these characters again. I'm not going to go through like each character, but there are 2 fighters. There's one that's like a melee focus, and then there's one that's a ranged focus. We have a priest. We have a wizard. We have a thief. So between those, we have 5 options. And you will notice, especially on the priest, that there are some inverted versions of spells. So that is one thing I want to touch on, because we're going to be designing around that as well. Let's find the priest. Oh, and they all have a bunch of like weird trinkets as a part of their gear, because as vampires, they really aren't faced with the same kind of environmental difficulties. Like, if you can turn into a bat, you don't really need a rope to fly. So they'll have some weird trinkets, and maybe we can figure out how to play these into what we're designing. So we have Father Wemberly. I want to go over some of his spells. He has, first of all, an inverted version of Turn Undead called Bolster Undead. This is going to be really useful because Turn Undead is pretty aggressive, and it can impact vampires. Even first level characters could potentially turn a vampire with this spell if they get lucky. So Bolster Undead is going to be a way for Father Wemberly to keep his vampire crew in the fight if we have any like priest style enemies in this. And then you'll see that he also has, actually, I think this is his only inverted. No, he has darkness instead of light. So he can touch a light source to extinguish it using the darkness spell. So those are his 2 inverted spells. And I think that as far as the wizard, the character goes, if I recall, we didn't have any inverted spells. They were all standard styles. Yeah, standard style spells. Yep, so there we are. So let's jump over to our document here. Vampire hunt. But not the kind that you would normally do on Halloween. So I have found 2 maps for this by Dyson Logos, actually. I don't often use maps that other folks have made, but I thought it would be kind of an interesting idea to try this and to see if we can design to some different maps besides ones that I just make. Because what happens is, when I'm making a map, I often start planning the adventure and thinking of what I'm going to put in that room sort of like here and there while I'm designing the map, and I didn't want to come into this with any preconceived notions. So that's another reason why we're using maps that I didn't make. So let me just quick show you guys the maps to give you an idea of what we're working with here. We have the upper level, which is a castle area. I did number these, so we're coming from the left to right. This left side appears to be the entrance. And we are moving, through the lower level. I also labeled the towers here lower in number because, what I try to do is give a lower number to places that the characters seem more likely to encounter first or to, enter through. And I think it's possible the characters could try to climb walls or something. So that's why we have those towers being the first numbers here. Yeah, and we're using, to the surprise of all, we're actually using Google Docs because another thing is I often write directly into InDesign when I'm writing, but this isn't a live stream about InDesign and layout. And sometimes it can be a little bit restrictive. I spend a lot of time editing while I write and getting things to fit into the layout while I write. And while that for me is a useful strategy, sometimes it gets in the way of just the writing itself. And today we're here to have fun, so we're gonna just keep it to the words themselves, and we're gonna be using a Google Doc to unhinder ourselves from space restrictions. Thank you, Taff, for keeping a hair fiddle count. My hair's still a little wet. I just got done bathing in the blood of my enemies, so it's still a little damp. It's drying as we speak. So, okay. Well, we've got the castle level. I showed you guys this. And then we've got the cellar level here. And this is down beneath the castle. You can get to it, I imagine, by this little stairwell in area 5. So I wrote 2 cellar here. You can see I just very expertly labeled this with just bright red numbers. And so I'm kind of ham-fisting. Like, this obviously is a little bit of a cave entrance, but we're just gonna pretend that these stairs just cleanly connect to here, and that it's a path downward up into the upper right here. So you can see right away up in the top left, area 10, that is my plan for where our vampires' coffins are gonna be. And there's some doors leading out, obviously right here and here. So I imagine that these are probably gonna be locked, but we'll get to that. And I would presume that the vampire characters have the keys. And I didn't write that onto their character sheets, but I was just assuming that they can come and go freely from this room, and I don't necessarily think that enemies can. So we can write that in potentially. So this is the map. I did number it a little weirdly. Yeah, I would always recommend you try to number your map before you start writing. I would always recommend that. Because sometimes you bounce around in your document and you want to reference another room or location, and if you don't have it numbered, it's hard to do that. So I did number this in hindsight not as coherently as I might have. It can actually be kind of hard to choose the order in which to number things, because you want to number it in the path, like kind of how you think it's most likely the characters will progress through, even though it's sometimes hard to guess because a lot of dungeons have multiple path choices. So I tried to do that and ended up kind of labeling around the outside, like ascending numbers around the outside of the dungeon. And then strangely, room 20 is right in the middle, which the characters could actually walk to directly if they came in from the stairs. So, this is kind of a hard choice about how to do this, but imagine you don't want to have connected rooms all completely pushed away from each other in your writing. So the reason I numbered it in this way is because if the characters get to room 20, if they go there first, you can just flip to the back and go in reverse instead of trying to like jump around and see, oh, what's coming next? Oh, I'm gonna have to flip pages. So that's the reason we did this. Now, we may regret that and have to change it, but that's just my insight into how I number rooms, and maybe you find that helpful. Okay. So, Scott, good morning. Scott's here. I just saw his comment. All right, everybody. So we're going to get started. We're going to get started writing. Now, I didn't pre-prepare too much for this except to put a little info here. We're going to write a quick background. And I often put the word fill in as a placeholder so that I can make sure I don't miss anything. And also to keep the formatting. If we start bolding and stuff, it's annoying to have to like reformat everything. So one thing I've talked about in the past, I actually have a YouTube video of me like holding a pumpkin talking about how to write horror. And I think that there are 3 very important elements in any horror adventure. And that is suspense, powerlessness, and mystery. And I think we want to incorporate those things into this adventure if we can, because we're going to have fun being the bad guys in this, but we still want to try to supply some classic Halloween horror if we can. And so the first element, suspense, is having it be that the characters don't know exactly all the details of what's going on and why. And that's not that hard to do, but when you lean into it, it can really accentuate suspense. So I want to ask you all, after we talk about a brief background, maybe some ideas we have for these 3 qualities in an adventure, once we have a little bit more of a base to work off of. But I'll just touch on the other 2 quickly so we all know, so we're all on the same page. Powerlessness, that's when the characters feel like they cannot defeat or alter their situation. That doesn't necessarily mean combat. That might mean, in our case, that the vampires are being attacked by some outside force during the day, and so they can't leave, they cannot escape. That's powerlessness. And this is something that we have to modulate in a horror adventure, because powerlessness is very useful for suspense, but it also has to be resolved by the end of the adventure, or it doesn't really serve its purpose. Like if you can think of any like classic horror movie you've seen, the characters are pretty powerless against the bad guys all the way up until around the end, you know? And sometimes there's even a twist that brings the powerlessness back. But like us as the audience get a lot of satisfaction out of feeling a resolution to that powerlessness. But again, because this is horror, we want to lean into that vibe more than we might normally. And then finally, mystery. Mystery ties into suspense. And it's a lot of like, what's going on here? You know, like, we know that there's stuff we don't know. And so that gets the imagination running and gets people sort of leaning into the sort of dread, the imagination, the worst case scenario. And so mystery and suspense are tied together, but you can sometimes have one without the other, or more of one than the other. You know, sometimes in a situation, there's no mystery, but it's suspenseful, and vice versa. So I like to keep those two distinct, you know, even though really oftentimes they're the same thing. So we have those three things. Now, thank you for listening to me go on for a minute here about all this. Let's talk about the adventure background. And this is where I'm going to start to need your guys' help, because we have our characters. They're 6th level vampires in the crypt of a castle. But why are they here? What's going on? What is the adventure starting off with? And I think that I'm seeing some comments come through, Coffee Mancer, and we've got Tath Diablo. The vampires are most likely active during the night. I would agree. And so maybe we're in a situation where the vampires need to hold their castle until nightfall, because that gives us some interesting timer elements. I like that idea. And it adds to the powerlessness because it's daylight, vampires can't flee. So I like that idea. Let's start typing. Let's add some stuff. The vampires need to hold their castle until nightfall. It's currently the morning. Let's say the morning. That gives us a whole day to work with. It's a vampire family is what we're saying. I want to ask you guys, what is the relationship between these vampires? They're all different classes, all different backgrounds. But, you know, that's actually not uncommon with vampire clans, per the lore. So how do they all know each other? Why were they were in the crypt, right? We do have to start them in the crypt. So why are they there? Why aren't they terrorizing their town now? What's going on? Were they asleep? Okay, we got some ideas. The vampires were summoned, infiltrating another vampire family ceremony. That's very interesting. Family of vampires reclaiming their castle. That's an interesting idea too. They're renting a castle in New York, sent by their baron on Staten Island. Oh man, you know, if we were writing a modern adventure, I would totally go for that. Family of bites, not blood, not previously related. I kind of agree. I think they're all very different. They're an acting troupe. I like that. They originally came from town. Yup, they're members of a secret society. They've been disturbed by a group of heroes. Okay, so I think we're kind of coalescing around an idea, which is that, you know, the vampires are a self-made clan, driven together by threat. It's an Airbnb castle. What would we call that? Like a Fang B&B? Like a traveling clan, warring vampire families. Oh, Callum, that's a cool idea. That's actually kind of a cool idea because it could explain why they've been otherwise inactive, you know? Like, it's weird to have a castle full of vampires just outside of town and, like, not have them doing anything. So maybe there's some kind of outside threat that has finally drummed up enough problems to get their attention. Scare B&B, that's so funny. That's so funny. The Unhumble Bar, go on. Yeah, they're all staying in their Scare B&B together, and let's kind of lean into a little bit of this. So the vampires are a like clan that has existed together for some time, but in dormancy. Now outside threats are pushing enemies to their castle, and they must awaken to defend it. How about that? So we don't necessarily have to worry too much right now about like what that threat is. We know that there's an outside force that's pushing attention towards their castle in a bad way. Yeah, maybe a little bit of a like, you know, the last scene in Beauty and the Beast where they all march on the castle with pitchforks and torches. Like maybe we've got a little bit of that going on. So yeah, let's say pitchforks and torches are now at their gates. Oh my. So, all right, you guys, let's start filling in some details here. I always like to take some notes just about the overall background and some concrete ideas that we can build off of that are like latching on to the important elements we want to emphasize. So again, in this adventure, it's these 3 elements of horror. And I think, first of all, powerlessness is going to be like, it's daylight, full sun, there is no escape. We've got some good ideas coming through. The village has become sick, causing them to take refuge from townsfolk and hunting clerics. Yeah. So maybe part of our mystery is what is causing this sudden, you know, what is causing enemies to come to their gates? Is there something that they can do about it, maybe? I don't actually know yet. Any invaders abuse one vampire trope. One is a chef who baked garlic bread. That's so funny. Yes, exactly. One has armored himself in steaks like a porcupine. Yeah, I think we're gonna need to come up with some interesting enemy ideas for this in the form of like what we would have normally called player characters, but in this case, they're the NPCs. Yeah, I love the idea of maybe like a Van Helsing type leading, like you guys are saying. Like there's some vampire hunter who's, you know, brought his best and brightest here to try finally to root out those old mean vampires. So let's put that in here too. A vampire hunter has led the best heroes from the land to the castle to root out the undead evil once and for all. We're in trouble, guys. It's hard to be a vampire in a time like this. Okay. And let's see. So we can come back to these things. We'll think of some suspense, maybe. But I think to begin with, suspense, we might want the vampires to like awaken to the sounds of this invasion on their castle. Yep. The vampires awaken to the sound of maybe hammering at the front door. Gates. Okay. Hammering at the front gates, you all. At the front gates, area 1. That's the place I'm talking about. So I have created us a placeholder key down here for the upper level, and let's call this the gates. The gates. What's happening here? Now, one thing is for each room, I think we should kind of give a quick description, like try to give a quick hit of what does this look like. And then following that, we're gonna give a little bit of GM specific information about what is interactive here, like what's going on, what things can develop, what details does the game master need to know that could change. So the actual front gate is knocked open. Do you guys, should we go that far? Do you guys think, do vampires like trap their front gate? And what does this castle look like? What does it look like? You know, and I the way that I've given, like the way that I give room descriptions has sort of changed, and you know, I've tried different things over time, but typically I like to just give a complete brief sentence Because even though I like shorter sentences that have like some condensing, you know, like you'll be like gates rusty, like in you know, what are those called? After, you know, like as a tag, like gates rusty, corroded. I like writing that way, especially if space is a consideration, but I also think it takes the game master a little bit more like mental lift to translate that into something to convey. So in this case, because we have the space, I want to give complete but punchy sentences describing these things. So let's see what you guys have come up with. There's just been a Halloween rave hosted at the mansion where everyone is dressed as vampires and ghouls. Michael, that's Michael at Night Noon. I think we could absolutely incorporate some NPCs, like you know, the kids being like, yeah, stay overnight one night in the haunted castle to prove you're cool. Like, we should for sure have some of that in here. So let's put some notes here. NPCs, kids, playing chicken, you know, stay in the castle overnight to be cool. To prove how cool you are, right? We'll create a little mini header for this. And this is where we're gonna just like throw some ideas. How do you do a bullet? I don't know. I'll just put numbers here. So cool. That's a fun idea. Okay. All right. Gargoyles that act like an intercom. I love that. I don't know why that's so funny. It's worth pointing out. So we're having fun here, right? We're going to be making up some kind of like, the whole point of this is to have fun. It's not to be like too like strict on our technique or our writing or our layout. And you'll notice that in a lot of horror adventures and media, that there are moments of comedy punched in, like moments of silliness. And you kind of need that to break up the horror vibes a little bit. You know, I'm trying to think of like any horror movie I've watched that has a few just funny moments in it. I think they kind of all do, you know? And so like something silly like the gargoyles, I think we should definitely incorporate that. So I think first of all, we're going to be like, gargoyles are intercoms. They yell irritated sounding alerts out of mouths in the walls in area 5 to wake vampires up. Irritated sounding's kind of weak. They yell what's the word I'm looking for? I need more coffee. I need to drink more of my Stingback coffee right now. Like, I kind of think these gargoyles are sort of like annoyed at their job, even though they're rarely employed, you know? So like, how can we convey that? Like, the vampires yell like like irritated or scratchy, or like you know, when you can hear someone rolling their eyes with the way that they talk, like that's how I'm imagining them saying it. Yeah, like dismayed, like we'll just say like they yell impatient and annoyed alerts out of carven mouths in the walls in area 5 to wake the vampires up. So let's add that to area 5 too. Wait, not area 5. I'm sorry, you all, not area 5. Let's look at our map. Area 10. Area 10. That's where the vampires sleep. So I wanna add this right away. So mouths and walls. Gargoyles guarding gates. Area 1. Here's a tip. Always put a cross-reference to the area you're referring to. And always make sure that when you have something in two separate areas that reference each other, that the description is in both. It's kind of, it's interesting to see how often people don't make cross-references, and imagine a game master trying to like run this adventure like maybe in reverse because the characters came in a different way and they need everything to link together in the description. So yeah. Oh, Miguel, that's the exact word we were looking for, is impudent alerts. They yell impudent. Yes, exactly. Perfect word. I love it. It's like it implies like sass, impatience, and annoyance all in one word. I love it. All right, so we were down in area 10. We're saying mouse and gargoyles guarding gates. Area 1, yell impudent alerts if they spot anyone. Impudent alerts meant to wake the vampires. If they spot anyone. Sometimes also add wry critiques and sass, especially if a vampire has respawned. We gotta make this fun, right? Like, I feel like these gargoyle mouths like have to make fun of vampires who have been killed and had to respawn. Be like, third time this evening, you know, like, or today, I guess, because it's during the day. Oh yeah, do the vampires turn into bats or sting bats? That's a really good question. I feel like they're friends with sting bats, but you can't just like turn into a sting bat. They're such special creatures, you know, even vampires. What is Callum saying? Animated armor with a maid apron who was a servant in a really unfortunate accident in the pantry and their spirit got stuck in a nearby armor display. This place has to be, in my opinion, full of hilarious undead situations. So animated armor, former maid, wears what is it called? Wears uniform. Former maid wears uniform whose spirit got stuck in the armor. That's a very funny idea. I like that. Add that to the notes. Okay, cool. They should have pet sting bats. Let's just note down, we need to incorporate sting bats in some way. It's not a Shadowdark adventure without sting bats, I'd say. Okay, so we've mentioned the gargoyles. Intercoms. I'm just gonna try to, lintercoms. Intercoms. So at the gates, we mentioned the gargoyles in the GM description, but we haven't yet mentioned them in the player-facing description. So let's just get a great little description. Now, here's a question, chat. Is this castle, is it classically Gothic? Is it not? Is it unassuming? Or is it crumbling? Is it new? Is it fortified? Is it old? What do you all think? Seems like it's been here a while, right? So we probably want to convey that. And, are we going to go with the classic, Curse of Strahd, Ravenloft style, soaring, gargoyle-laden, Gothic architecture? Or, are we going to... Worse, it's neo-Gothic. No. It's so try-hard. Classic Gothic, modern fake retro Gothic, rotting Rococo. Yeah, partially ruined. I think that makes sense, partially ruined. Cottage core. That broke me. It's a cottage core castle. Oh, there has to be a room in it that is that. There has to be. And maybe we need to back into an explanation. Cottage core room. Whose room would that be? Here's what I think. Not we're having fun. This isn't meant to be I think when I created Madame Corbert, originally my thought was that she was actually going to be the evil butler that was pretending not to be a vampire, and so I tried to give her a little bit of the I work here persona, and I definitely think that Madame Corbert is cottagecore in her heart. She likes teapots. She is a chaotic evil slayer, but she was once a noble, as you can see from her background. Goddess is Shun, so clearly she has a little bit of the finesse in her evil. So, yeah, I absolutely, Madame Corbert, we're adding notes about you. You are cottagecore. Madame Corbert's maybe her former chambers. Madame Corbert's former chambers. Cool. Okay. Back to the castle. Back to the castle description, the gates. So we're gonna say like a soaring, but like eroded Gothic, like I want to say like swooping. I don't want to say like crenellations. Is better to like, yeah. Okay, soaring but eroded Gothic build. Writing live is hard. When you go back, when you write your descriptions of rooms, your room descriptions, these are the kinds of things that you need to torture afterwards. Like, writing live, we're not going to be too picky because the editing process is its own bag of worms. But but when you want to refine these things, you have to be able to see your image in your own head. And sometimes simple language and direct, punchy sentences are what gets you there. You know, if you're giving a very flowery description or a dramatic description, sometimes that's a way to hide the fact that you actually don't clearly see in your head what it is. And you're trying to, in your writing, you're trying to work out what it is you're seeing. And that's fine. That's actually good. In your writing, work out what you're seeing, put down all your ideas, and then come back and chop it up into something that appears in your mind without effort. And so it's challenging to do that. Maybe we'll find a few examples here. Soaring Gothic build. And here's another thing, like keeping descriptive words like soaring and eroded like apart from each other helps create visual imagery because you're not stacking too much description on. So like I might try, just to make this appear more easily in the mind of the reader, I might say soaring Gothic, walls eroded by rain and time. That's not it's not the most beautiful description I've ever written, but it's simple enough and the descriptions are separated out enough that I think you can first get the walls and then you get the rain and the Gothic architecture. So that's, that's not, we could do worse than this. So gargoyles leer out over the battlements, watching, leer out over the battlements as if watching the gates. This is what we would read to the flying buttresses. What even is that? I always have to look that up. I'm like, oh yeah, it's like a piece coming out of the wall that holds up another piece. But is Sly Flourish in the chat? Did I just miss that? Oh hey, Sly Flourish. Hey Mike, it's so good to have you here. You guys, he's about to wrap like a nearing up on almost 50 session Shadowdark campaign roughly. So I don't know if you guys are gonna hit 50, Mike, but I think you have roundly proven through demonstration that Shadowdark campaigns are not necessarily short. They can be lengthy, and that is awesome. So that's what I've always known to be true and hoped that someone with Mike's skill could prove. So all right, back to the description. Soaring Gothic walls eroded by rain and time. Gary Goyle. I typed Gary Goyles. Gary Goyles. Do they look like Gary? Gargoyles leer out over the battlements as if watching the gates. Gates are twisted iron, twisted iron, coated in rust. Twisted, sharp iron. I know I said don't put too many descriptive words together. Sharp, twisted iron. Gates are twisted iron, spears coated in rust. Spears? Do we want to say I want them to be like sharp? Yeah. Twisted iron points coated in rust. Peppered with rust. A little bit more descriptive. It's not really good to be like R. I'm not gonna try to go down the rabbit hole of writing. maybe I'll just say gates, twisted iron points peppered with rust. And then let's talk about the gates. So I like to bold things that are going to appear in the GM text, just to sort of like cue the game master that we're going to go more into this down below. Yeah, patina, I love that word. I actually overuse that word. Gary Goyles. Okay, we're keeping it Gary Goyles. The Gary Goyles. Gary Goyles. We're gonna improve this, carved mouths and walls. They sometimes add wry critiques and sass, especially if it's a bit. Cool. So the gates. Wow, I just hit the mic really hard. I'm so sorry with my hand. I hope that didn't blow anyone's ears out. IKEA-style gates that were put together by amateur made a particle board. So yes, fun. Like we're thinking of traps here. The gates. Yes, creaked hinges, warped and bloated oak. Wow, Tat's a writer. Tat, that's a great image. Creaking hinges. Let's add that. Let's take advantage of the fact that we have a phenomenal writer in our audience. Creaking hinges, warped and bloated oak frame. Oh wait, not frame. Oak reinforcements. Bram Stoker's Dracula is a fantastic movie of great imagery. Yes, so true. It's like when you're writing a vampire castle, like it's almost a shame not to have a few of the tropes that we all have come to expect, like the lightning striking the top tower. There are probably no giant headless statues laying around. You don't think so, Scott? You don't think so? Does the lair affect the weather at all? Ordinarily, I would say that their lair is probably constantly rainy, but something be going on because the vampire hunter we were talking about has come with his posse. Perhaps they are forcing the weather to clear. We can maybe write that in at some point. So why don't we consider, we got a lot of rooms. I don't know if we're even going to get through all the rooms in this sitting, but let's consider the gates. Do the gates do anything special? Broken open. Should we say broken open by vampire hunters? Warped and bloated oak reinforcements. Now here's the thing too. Final tip on writing things. You don't want to over reveal in the text that you read to the characters. And this is the insight of other great writers. Is I didn't come up with this, but like it's an important point to point out is that the point of a game like Dungeons and Dragons or Shadowdark, whatever it is you want to call it, is that it's about interaction between the players and the game master. And you want the players to engage with a room anytime they come to it, which means asking questions about the room, putting things in there. Have fun. Not so Slim Shady. Good to see you. Thank you. Oh, hey, I know who you are. Hi, Terry. I'm guessing that this is Jesse. So hopefully I'm not wrong, but I hope I'm right, and have fun. So when you over reveal in the description you read to the players, they won't want to ask questions. They won't need to probe what's going on in the room and explore. And so you want to give them enough that they understand where they are. You're even hinting at dangers. Like when we said gargoyles leer out over the battlements as if watching the gates, we're telling them something there. Like we're giving them the hint that these gargoyles are not simply gargoyles, but we're not telling them exactly what's going on. And we're assuming they're going to ask about our gargoyles and our gates. So in the GM text, you're giving a little bit more information about what these things do once the players begin interacting with them. Oh, they discover their creaky hinges. Oh, they inspect more closely and see that there's warped wood. Oh, hey, Yuri. Oh, Yuri's in the chat. Yuri is such a phenomenal artist. If you own Shadowdark, you own like 50 pieces of Yuri's art. So yeah, so cool, so cool. So we're giving in the descriptions the oh hey Brazil, Yuri's in Brazil too. We got a few people from Brazil. It is Jesse. Sorry, I'm so excited to see people who I know in the audience. So thank you all for being here. And I'll conclude my point in our GM text. We're telling the GM more information to give to the players once they choose to interact with the thing. And those aren't the kind of things we're going to say in the flavor text, because we need to give the characters a reason to engage. We don't tell them it's creaky. It's only creaky once they try to open it. Then that's when they find out. And a trick for this is imagine what things about the room could change from how they currently are. Or imagine what things you want the players to ask questions about. Like, here's a classic example. There's a mural on the wall when the characters come in depicting a scene of war. We're not going to say more than that because we want the characters to be like, oh, depicting a scene of war, like, are there more details? And then the GM's like, why, yes, there are more details. As you get closer, you can see XYZ things that might reveal more information. Maybe there's a secret door, maybe there's treasure hidden in the mural, maybe there's a hint about the adventure, but you want the characters to get that information from the game master. You don't just give it to them. Okay, I've gone on at length. So we have the gates. The gates have been broken open, creaking hinges. I don't know if we need anything else. Why don't we hint that there are traps? This is always a smart thing to do. When you have a trap, traps can be not fun if traps are surprises that can never be predicted. Traps that you can predict are the fun kind. Like, ooh, this would be the perfect place for someone to put a pit trap. I bet there is one. Those are the places you want to identify and put traps, because traps without tells are simply punitive. They're not fun. They're pretty common. I wish they weren't. I think that we can do better. So why don't we make the gates a hint? Why don't we say pools of molten lead gather along the ground. Pools of molten lead. Okay, wait. Yeah, drying. Here's the reason. I think we should show a tripped trap. You know, something that the characters will then know, like, oh, I realize that this dungeon employs traps, and one of the traps is XYZ thing we're about to explain, so I'll be on the lookout for that. And then when they find it again, which will probably put a similar trap somewhere else in the dungeon, then they'll be like, aha, I did a good job. I learned something. I applied what I learned to this adventure in a place where it seemed like the trap would be, and I was right. And that's the perfect way for a character to engage with a trap. So we're gonna put a tell, and I think so we want to say what I'm imagining is opening the gate caused cauldrons of boiling lead to fall down and kill some people. So skeletons, piles of bones. How recently did this happen? Was it the current invaders that tripped this trap, or was it former invaders? Yeah. And it's and Mage's Musings, I agree. Not having obvious tells is sometimes good for the trap, but ideally a trap would be possible for the characters to engage with the trap through smart play before tripping it. So that doesn't always mean a tell, but it might mean putting a trap in a place where characters learn to look for traps, like on doors or stuff like that. And not every trap meets these criteria, but I think the majority of our traps are better when they do. That's just my opinion. Electrified gates, long solidified splatters of molten lead. Good description, Corey. I like that. So, and I might say we might put this on some recent characters. So recent corpses splattered with how did you put it that was so well said? With splattered with molten lead, running from holes in the, I want to say like holes, what were those called? They were called, I can't remember the technical term for these. It's been a long time since I read my castle books. Running from holes in the like the part of the tower that's like leaning out above the gates. Running from holes in the arch over the gate. Recent corpses splattered with molten lead, running from holes in the arch above the gate. There we go. Murder holes! Murder holes! That's right. Running from murder holes. Yeah. Hi, this stream. Okay, the stream's for 6th level characters. Precons, however, that are supplied in the link down below in the description, because the precons are vampires, and the vampires are trying to protect their castle. That's where we're at. So we've already been streaming for close to an hour, and we've gotten one room done. This seems like we're doing great. So, cool. We got the murder holes. I'm just gonna highlight them to draw attention of the GM's eye to it, since they're important. And someone's asking about buying Arcane Library website to order physical books to the EU. We're working on getting better distribution in the EU. We might have some announcements on that soon. We're also completely out of stock of stuff right now because we were surprised by how excited everyone was to buy stuff. Our current print run is set to be done in about 10 days, and we're getting it over to the United States after it's finished printing. So by the end of the month, we hope to have books on boats. Cool. And it's going to take them about a few months to get to the US. So I imagine, I would estimate, I can't promise this since I don't know. There are many parts of this process that can't be predicted until they happen. But by typical measures, we should have books back in stock in January in the new year. So that will be cool. Anyway, yeah, and global distribution, we're working on getting better representation for people who live not in the United States. So cool. All right. Yeah, Slide Force, this is not lazy jam prep. This is just like punch your way through the writing is in a formal process. Okay, now let's jump back up to our map. We're going to work on the second part, the second room, actually. We've got our towers 2, 3, and 4. So, I think let's just describe briefly what these towers look like. We'll use the same description since they're identical for 2 and 3. Briefly what they look like, how we can interact with them. So tower, we'll call it the North Tower, and we'll call this one the South Tower, and then it will be the East Tower. North Tower, boop boop. How tall are, oh, we didn't actually explain how tall the castle walls were. We should probably do that. Oh, I've already messed with my hair 25 times. Good thing no one's doing the drinking game. And okay, yes, Tath has to head out, and that is lovely to have you here for the time we could. Thank you for being here. Fang-like towers, pointy and spiky. I like that. Yeah, so like sharp, like peaked roofs. Oh, they're open though. That's what's unfortunate. They're open. So let's just say that they're 40 feet tall. 40 feet tall, open to the sky. Rotted. We're gonna say like there's a rotted trap door, leading to area. Leading to lower level. Cool. I don't know if we need to put a full out description here. These are identical towers. Gates. I'm actually gonna add something. I'm gonna add a note here about walls. 20 feet high, crenellated. Wow, I can't spell crenellated. Crenellated, 1L. 20 feet high, crenellated. We're gonna give it a DC 12 to climb. And I'm gonna do the classic, like 1 in 6 chance a sharp edge severs a rope with weight on it. That's kind of that's kind of an old school thing, where you don't just make it like so easy. Like the chance that a sharp edge could sever the rope is a fun little thing that can be in there. Ooh, crumbling crenellations like the teeth of a decaying skull. Crenellated, crumbling like the teeth of a decaying skull. Thanks, Mike. That's a very evocative. I like that description a lot. Cool. I like that. Cool. Okay. And then our East Tower, let me show you guys the map. So the East Tower is a big one because characters who decide to climb up to the East Tower, so do y'all see this? Number 4 in the upper right corner. Oh, Yuri, it would have been so cool if you could do a cover. We have more stuff that I would love you to do a cover for coming up, so stay tuned. That would be epic. So we're looking at area 4. This is the raised tower up here. It's got a couple separate chambers. I don't know if we need to do anything terribly special for this. We could do something fun up here. Why don't we? There's a walled off area. And yeah, I'll release what we finish of this adventure. And I don't think we're gonna finish a 20-room adventure in one sitting, but I'm gonna keep working away at it because I actually want to put it to use. And so I'll release the final version of it once we get it done. It might take some time, but skull-shaped castle, not suspicious at all, right? Yeah. Okay, so area 4, open to the sky, right? Area 4, open to the sky, 40 feet tall, open to the sky. Geet. What the heck? 40 feet tall, open to the sky. And the rooms here, why don't we put something fun? Because do you see how you all see that there are arrow slits here? Stairs, we're going to say stairs leading. We're going to give it the same description and then add a little bit. Stairs leading to lower level. Area 5 in this case, since area 5 is important, we're calling it out. So this leads down to here. What should we put in this little shut door, you guys? We should put something fun in here. Do we put a trick or a treat? Trap or treasure? Person or non-person? The front of Tower 4 like a skull with a portcullis as its fang-like teeth. Arrow slit windows as its evil eyes. That's cool. That's cool. Like I feel like we can make the walls have open to the sky. The arrows, what are we calling the arrow slit zones? Wow, I'm embarrassingly not up on my castle. Like, are we calling these the shooting rooms, the guard rooms? I guess they're just guard rooms. Guard rooms with arrow slits protrude from castle walls in the vague shape of a skull. 1d4 swarms of bats. Yeah, let's do some bats. Like, if you guys recall, Caverns of Thracia starts with like very ordinary, like this place has been abandoned type creatures. And I think the reason Janelle did that, which was extremely wise writing, was to present like an organic, like this is a normal abandoned place creature that you would almost expect to encounter, and then that made the weird stuff even more interesting because you go into this almost like Indiana Jones. Like, I'm talking about Caverns of Thracia. It's like my favorite adventure. It's also, I think, one of the most interestingly designed dungeons ever. There's a lot of techniques she used in the writing of it, and one of them was to establish normalcy before creating weirdness, and that created like a really interesting dynamic where like you were, as you moved down through the layers of this dungeon and things got more surreal, it kind of kept the suspension of disbelief legit because oh my gosh, there's a random encounter with a sting bat. What is going on? Matilda's in her bat costume. A random sting bat has appeared. Oh no. Oh my gosh, we need to roll for initiative. This is my dog. Julie, do you want to say hi? Do you want to show everyone your sweet Halloween costume? Are you a sting bat? Oh wow. Oh my gosh, guys. Sting bat attack. I might not make it now. I'm about to die. Help. Oh my gosh. Matilda. Thanks for visiting, sweetheart. Okay. You want to hang out? You want to be a sting bat in here? She wants to be a sting bat. Okay. Here we go. So, as demonstrated by the entrance of this sting bat right here, we like to show normal-ish creatures before the weird stuff. And let's continue with that precedent. Oh, come here, honey. She might sit down right here. Come here, honey. Good girl. Oh, good girl. Stingbat canines. Oh, Yuri's asking what's my favorite dungeon. So it's a dungeon that was written a long time ago by Janelle Jacques, who was writing at the time as Paul Jacques. That's sometimes you can't find it unless you search that name. And it is called Caverns of Thracia. It was published by Judges Guild. It is being republished by Goodman Games, which is awesome, and they're going to do a fantastic job modernizing the presentation of it a little bit, I think, and all that. I think that it's going to be a definitive version of it. I am lucky enough to have been able to contribute a forward to that printing of it as well. So Caverns of Thracia, absolutely check it out, written by a super cool person. And let's continue now that this little sting bat is here. She doesn't know what to do with herself. So we have the East Tower, and we had been talking about some bats in the sealed room. So let's say that a swarm of bats bursts out of a sealed room, door unlocked, if opened. If opened, you almost don't have to say, oh, out of the sealed room. It's mad that we're not using proper grammar. Swarm of bats burst out of the sealed room, door unlocked, if opened. Oh, Mike, you got the preview copy of it? Oh, I'm so jealous. I can't wait to get my hands on the Thracia. I know I always said, Janelle herself pronounced it as Thracia in front of me, and I was quietly like, okay, remember that this is how it's said, because I've said it differently, depending, you know? So that's, you know, I never pronounce things right. Okay, East Tower. So let's jump back to our map. I'm actually going to put this in the GM text. Swarm of bats burst out of sealed room. I'm going to say southwest room, door unlocked, if opened, which was here. So while we're above ground, there has to be a trap that lets sunlight in. I would say so. Well, so this entire area is open to the sky too. So how did I not get the preview copy? Maybe I did. I don't know. Maybe I have it in my email. I bet if I asked, the kind and lovely people at Goodman Games would indulge me, but I don't like to ask for favors. With the Minotaur, with the Minotaur, with the blue one with the Minotaur being like, with the axe on the front, that's the one. Yeah, that's the one. Yes, and they did her Dark Tower adventure recently, also an absolute classic. Thracia's my favorite though, so I just like the very pulp sort of vibe to it. I love Minotaurs. Just love that. So, okay. Castle grounds should be changed by vampire hunters. Yes. So now so Steve, thank you for saying this. You bring up a fantastic point. We have to start adding monsters because here is an interesting thing. The characters, the vampires, are like, we have to remember that we're writing this for those characters who are starting inside the castle, and they might be moving throughout the castle at various times. But the monsters in this castle are the good guys, like the NPCs, right? So let's throw a few monsters out. I think, first of all, let's skip Area 5 for now, even though we do have to write that portion. I want to jump to Area 6, which is this central courtyard, right? And this is, again, open to the sky. And we need to remember that. In fact, all areas... not all areas are open to the sky. So I think, we're going to say courtyard. No, this is actually, this isn't it. Area 6. Courtyard. So sunlight, it's sunlit. So we want to maybe explain that. Sunlight reflects off the helms. So blinding sunlight reflects off the helms of whom? Who is here? I think, okay, so the invaders have busted the gates open, right? We've established that part. Who amongst them is now in the courtyard? Because I think it has to be them, right? It has to be the pitchforks and torches people who got the gates open. Oh, Yuri, have fun swimming in the sea. Enjoy, and congrats. Yuri's a new dad. Congrats. That is phenomenal, and it was very exciting. So, cool. So, who's in the courtyard? Paladins. Yeah, right. I think that's. And forgive me. Is it Zerovi? Am I going to pronounce that wrong? Zerovi. I think they send in their vanguard. Right. They're gonna send in some tough people to heroically bash the vampires, right? I think that we have a adventuring party of 4 or 5 warriors / priests. Oh, it's pronounced 06? Okay. Yeah, I'll just call you 0. Like a priest, yeah, yeah. Oh, and I missed what Runeforge said too. Primary antagonist, an angel disguised as an ordinary. Yes, that would be a very cool idea because that's a great, weapons grade bad guy. So why don't we note that down? That's a fantastic idea. A vampire hunter, let's say secretly an angel. Ooh, is this bolded correctly? Oops. Secretly an archangel. Ooh, an archangel. That's a bad monster. Okay. A vampire hunter, the famed vampire hunter, what's her name or his name? What's the name of this vampire hunter? Yeah, like a Saint Taragnus rep, I love writing adventures where the angel, in my version of the Shadowdark world, the youngest god is Saint Taragnus, and her supporters are still among those on Earth or the historical creatures of Earth. Yeah, Nate's Best Life, the PCs are they are dead, yeah. And yeah, it would really be unfortunate if they got hit by a turn undead. And this is another design trick that I want to impart that will work its way into this dungeon. I do not give monsters or NPCs the same spells that I give PCs access to. And so you will notice that there are no monsters in the... Oh, Carson! Wait, pause what I was saying. My childhood friend Carson is in the chat. Carson, I think about you all the time. I just beat Zelda 2 on my own for the first time because I remember as a kid, you had to ride your bike over and help me beat it because I couldn't beat Thunderbird. And I always thought, Carson would be disappointed in me for never beating Thunderbird on my own. So, like, I had COVID 2 years ago, and I went through and beat Zelda 2 on my own, and I was like, Carson would be proud of me, I hope. So, anyway, maybe you are, but it's really great to see you, buddy. Cool. So, back to what I was saying. I don't give NPCs or monsters like instant death attacks or like sleep spells or charm person spells, except in very rare situations. Like I think that the Dryad has something like that, but that is because it is not fun for players to be on the receiving ends of those effects. It just actually isn't, and PCs have more powerful spells generally than NPCs do, and I don't give NPC instant death effects because instant death effects are just they're fun to use, and they're not fun to be on the receiving end of. And it's kind of like there's been this like developing line of thought in the game design community as the decades have gone by, and there's been this sort of agreement, I think, overall that like it's sometimes like not fun for NPCs to like cast sleep on the whole party and slit their throats. And here's the reason: because the characters are going to be getting into a lot of fights with a lot of different enemies throughout their careers, And so statistically, enemies that always have access to like instant death spells are eventually going to hit the PCs with them. Whereas when a PC hits an enemy with an instant death spell, that enemy is removed from play forever and is no longer a factor. And so when if you're throwing NPCs at the characters who have like instant death spells or whatever, eventually one's going to succeed because of the number of combats the PCs, a contiguous character, get into versus the encounters with monsters that come and go. They're walk-ons, they're enemies to be defeated, etc. So the likelihood that will bite your players in an unfun way is like practically 100%. And so that's why you will notice that there are no monsters in the Shadowdark core rules who have an actual instant death effect a la power word kill. They're softer than that. They're like you go to 0 and start dying, or like you get to make a check to take damage instead, stuff like that. And that was a very careful decision that was made. So cool. Oh, Carson, cool. I'm glad. Yeah, we should definitely catch up sometime. I don't know if you're still back where we used to grow up, but yeah. Email me, dude. My email's on the internet, so shoot me a message. Okay. So where were we? Sorry. I got really excited pontificating. Sorry, y'all have to listen to me talk this whole time. Here we are. So, we are the vampire hunter. I don't want to make the bad guy Carson. We can't name the bad guy after Carson. We got to name someone cool after Carson. So, let's come up with like some. Okay, first of all, Knight Paladin Immortu Eversor. Ooh, Atlas, cool. I love that. Knight Paladin. I'm gonna say, I don't want to bold everything. It's too much bold. Knight Paladin Immortu Eversor. Yeah, that's cool. That's very like Saint Tragnacy, which is like perhaps some people have noticed that there's a lot of like mutated Catholic lore. I was raised Catholic. Well, I mean, I won't. What I believe is currently of absolutely no importance, but I definitely have learned a lot of Catholic lore growing up. I found it to be a really interesting crossover set of knowledge into medieval gaming stuff, and I feel like that name sounds very much in line with Saint Taragnus's vibes, so I like that. Cool. All right, so we've got our vampire hunter Immortu Eversor. Question. Should we just shorten it to Eversource since, well, no, we'll keep the whole name because it's cool. but probably people call him or her like, you know, like Eversor by their last name. Cool. So the vampires awaken to the sound of hammering at the front. This is like the hook, so we're gonna bold and italicize. All right. So we're probably gonna go for another 45 minutes or so, because I know that's a long sitting for all of y'all. So we'll have done 2. And yeah, we can say Sir Knight Paladin, Sir Immortu Evisor. I think it's a little bit easier to just kind of have a clear in our mind who this NPC is, so that when we go to describe them, we want to be able to be like, this is who they are. Awesome. All right, back to the courtyard. So yeah, or Lady Eversor. I don't know. I kind of thought Lady Eversor, but like I for some reason, because of Saint Taragnus's like Joan of Arc story, I feel like a lot of the people in power in that church are women. I think that Saint Taragnus was sort of a firebrand Joan of Arc type. So why don't we, you know, this adventure is about Knight Paladin, Lady Immortu Evisor. We're taking tropes and flipping them on their heads. So whatever our first instinct is, we should do the opposite. All right. Cool. Bye, now UK. Oh, is Games Workshop like have that? Eversor. I'll just add an A. There we go. Too bad, Games Workshop. Now it's different. Yeah, we can honestly let the game master decide how that person falls. For me, for now, I'll just keep it Lady, because if I write a scene that has her in it, I'll probably need to know that, but we can always change this up. Okay. Cool. Oh, Fables, running an adventure? Is that what I hear? Ravenloft, nice. Oh, that's very exciting. Oh, running for strangers is so fun. I think it's fun. You start to embrace the chaos. You start to like relish the requirement that you improvise and that you like work to the audience and stuff. So it's definitely, it can make you nervous, but I think it's also so fun. Okay. Let's see. Where were we? Map. Let's go back to the map. If you forget where you are, just go back to the map. 6, courtyard. We were talking about who's in the courtyard. So the vanguard, off the helms of the invader. Well, let's just call the vanguard. Are we calling them the invaders? Vanguard. Yeah, it would be Dame, wouldn't it? But I never liked that. I always thought that if you were like a female knight and your title was Dame, I was like, that's like not as cool. I don't know. I kind of like how Game of Thrones did it, where it was just Sir for everybody. I was like, oh, that's like, you know, I keep touching the mic. Okay. Back to what we were discussing, the courtyard. Who's in the courtyard? The intruders. Intruders, that's a better way to put it. Vanguard. Okay. For this, we might need the Shadowdark book, and I'm like, I don't have a way to. Let me just grab mine. Hold on. I'll just grab one. I was like gonna put one up on the screen, but there was no point. So, okay, like what's a monster that would be making sense? Like knights, like a few knights. So that's a monster we have. HIJK. Knights. Yeah, knights are level 3. Ooh, they're scary. Ooh, plate mail and shield, bastard sword. Don't censor me, YouTube. I said the B word. And an acolyte. Yeah. Why don't we say like 4 knights and an acolyte? I have a copy usually in my drawer, but I like took it out. So this is actually my backup copy. It's like over on a shelf. I was using it. Okay, so let's say there's the, where's that ribbon bookmark that I so wisely put in this book? Where are you? Ribbon bookmark. If we ever do another premium edition, run of the book, like a different premium edition, I'm gonna put like 5 bookmarks in it, seriously, because I love bookmarks. I didn't want to overdo it because I wasn't sure if other people loved bookmarks as much as I do, but to heck with it. We're putting like 5 in next time. So we've got a knight, 4 knights. 4 knights, 1 acolyte, 4 proud knights. Let's say proud knights. 1 acolyte, terrified and over their head. And oh, you guys like the idea of more bookmarks? Okay, good. Yeah, I didn't want to be like, I just didn't know if it would be like, people would be like, what do I do with all these bookmarks, you know? Animate broomsticks. Oh, Dylan, yeah. Oh, definitely in the castle. I love the idea of like giant bats. Stuff like, let's add that to the ideas list here. Where is the ideas list? Yes, notes, ideas. Notes/ideas. So we have animate broomsticks, bats, and giant spiders. Yeah, all those are cool vibes for like within the castle. Oh, a slipcase? And Henry's asking, yeah, like slipcases are things we're trying to figure out. Actually, we are doing a new Kickstarter in March. Okay, self-promo. This is my stream. I'm going to promote we are doing a Cursed Scroll centered Kickstarter in March, and we're trying to dial in the final items that are going to be a part of this. So slipcases and things are cool, and I like them, and I would like to do them. So cool. Yeah, good to know you'd like that. All right, back to our courtyard. Now, the courtyard itself we didn't describe. What do you guys think? Cracked cobblestones, thick with weeds. Blinding sunlight reflects off the helm of the intruder's vanguard. 4 proud knights, 1 acolyte, and oh hey, there's so many people on here that I know. There's Black Lodge, there's Patty, so all these names I recognize. Wyvern. Welcome everybody. Hello. Dice maybe. Dice. I'm always like, I'm very particular about dice, and so I almost felt that I wouldn't be able to do dice justice with the last Kickstarter because I didn't want to just make like plastic little knockarounds. If I'm gonna do dice, I'm gonna like do dice. I'm gonna do dice. So we just didn't have the bandwidth last Kickstarter to do anything of that nature. But if we ever do them, they're gonna be hopefully like real cool. Does the castle deserve a hedge maze? Jay, like every castle should have a hedge maze. we may be limited by the map. Like, I don't want to say limited because it's a fantastic map, but we'll probably have to write to the map we have at hand. But, you know, if we find a spot for a hedge maze, I'm all for it. So I love that. Jack-o'-lanterns, vampires, yeah, inside the castle is going to be cool. A dry fountain. Good idea, Kenneth. And we'll say they gather around a dry fountain depicting a... All right, so we're going to say Vanguard. We're going to describe them. We're going to say fountain. We're going to talk about the fountain. It should have something cool. You know, this is actually the kind of thing, sorry, I'm looking at the description here, and like this is something I would probably rather kind of put in the GM text of 5 armored people. Who gather around a dry fountain. And then we don't want to over reveal the fountain in the text either. So what does the fountain, the fountain have? What does the fountain depict? It should be something like totally evil. Black Lodge asks, what is the upcoming Kickstarter? We're 3 new Cursed Scrolls. 3 new Cursed Scrolls. And probably some other stuff, but I don't want to say quite yet because we're still working on it. But like, you can't just do like just 3. I mean, I would be very pleased to make 3 new curse scrolls. They're my favorite thing to write. But like, we gotta throw in more goodies than that. So other stuff's in the works too that will be supplemental to those. And we're gonna launch that in March. In fact, I'll be at GaryCon like a week after it launches, and we're gonna do some fun stuff at GaryCon. I want you all to know because you're watching. If you're planning to come to GaryCon, on Wednesday night we're gonna be throwing like a Shadowdark like giant like pizza party that you're all invited to. Like truly, like we're throwing a huge pizza party. Luke Gygax is gonna be there hopefully, where we're all hanging out and just like celebrating the fact that we have a really cool crowd of Shadowdark people who show up in particular to GaryCon, which is my hometown con, sort of. I grew up like slightly north of Lake Geneva, and a lot of my longtime friends and people I've met in the gaming industry all tend to come to this con, so it feels to me like the most Shadowdarky con. And yeah, come to the pizza party. We're gonna hang out, and then after that we're gonna like, there's like a connected auditorium, and we're gonna go in there and just like chat. And I don't know if it would be fun for me to answer questions or like talk about the Kickstarter or anything anybody wants to talk about. It's not gonna be like a formal thing, but yeah, Wednesday night. Oh, JP's here. Hey, JP. JP's got an active Kickstarter right now that's about to hit like a Shadowdark stretch goal, which is really, really, really cool. The whole thing is cool regardless, but like, yeah, it's very exciting that we get a Shadowdark version. Yeah, so, okay, all. Here we are. We're back to describing the courtyard. Got about a half hour left, so let's get as much cool ideas out as we can manage. Cracked cobblestones thick with weeds. Blinding sunlight reflects off the helm of the intruder's vanguard. 5 armored people who gather around a dry fountain. All right, sorry. Let's go back to the fountain. I think you guys have been throwing out some cool ideas. Yeah. Ooh, peat giant. That's cool. That like the idea of a like lamenting figure depicts a lamenting figure that weeps tears of blood? Am I ruining it by doing that? That weeps tears of blood when told a sad story. Doing so also grants any PC who does not have, grants a luck token to any PC who does not have one. Once per day. Gotta limit that, otherwise it gets crazy. So yeah, remember, like, I'm adding this in because like all of the stuff that's like gloomy and sad is like good for the vampires, so we want to lean into that as rewards for the vampires. And yeah, and like if the vampires need to drink blood to heal themselves, I as the GM would allow them to drink from this fountain. All of the vampires have a bite attack that lets them heal HP for the amount of damage dealt. It does a D8, but this is Shadowdark, so that's the same as a longsword. That's no small thing. Oh my gosh, Map Crow, Kyle is here. Hey, buddy, how you doing? Oh, I'm so glad to see you in the chat. Yeah, saw you at Gen Con, even though it was frantic and crazy. And congrats again on the gold Any, my dude. How awesome. So proud, so proud. Yeah, very proud of that, that you guys managed to do that. That was just so cool. I still think about it. And all right, back to the adventure. I have so many dear friends. So the fountain, very cool idea that we had. Depicts the lamenting figure weeping blood when told a sad story. Doing so also grants luck token to any PC who does not have one once per day. The invaders aren't going to tell a sad story. They're going to be telling stories of triumph and holiness, and so they lose. Haha. Okay, we have our fountain, Vanguard. By the way, should we define what the Vanguard does? Should we say that, that, do they like stay here? Or do they move around. What happens if the fountain is blessed? Miguel, good idea. Ordinarily, I would define that, but none of the precons can bless things in a good way, so it might be outside the scope of what we need to design here. Ordinarily, we would, because normally that's something good guys can do. But we're the bad guys this time. We're vampires. Check out the precon characters in the link below if you haven't. In the description, there's a Dropbox link. Good evening, Matisse. Okay, so are these stationary enemies? Probably, but I feel like we need to give the vampires a reason to confront them, right? Otherwise, they could just avoid these like we have to remember that the player characters, we want to motivate them not simply to hide out in their coffin rooms. So like we're gonna have to apply some pressure. And I might say in the game master text here, like, the Lady Immortu Eversor refuses to leave the castle area while the Vanguard lives. I think it would make sense to say that the invaders will not retreat while the Vanguard lives because they are like a powerful military representation of the strength of the invaders here. So if the vampire characters want to work on the problem of getting rid of these invaders, they're going to have to confront or drive off the Vanguard, which means coming up here and enduring the sunlight in order to attack them. Which, recall that the vampire characters can respawn in their coffins, so it wouldn't necessarily be a bad tactic for them to just throw themselves willy-nilly, like in a couple of just brutal attacks, and that might be the right strategy, or lure them in or something. Do we leave that to the game master to determine, or do we create some writing in here around how the Vanguard can be lured into the castle under the right circumstances? Oh, hey, Victor. Victor's in the chat. What's up? Hey, man. Cool. Got a ton of people here. Why don't we say, they can be, let's say that the Vanguard will attack any obvious threats and can be drawn toward any obvious threats. Vanguard attacks obvious threats and can be, like we would call this kiting, I think, in game terminology, but I don't want to just like throw out game like can be drawn to suspected dangers. It would be smart for the vampire characters to kite the Vanguard into like maybe area 5 up here that's connected to the courtyard but not in full out sunlight. But they don't have to. But oh, okay, bye Kyle, go catch your train. Glad to have you here. Cool. So imagine the vampire's bad breath trying to bite your neck. Yeah, they've been asleep for a while. They probably haven't brushed in a while. Okay. We got, oh, hi everybody who's saying, people saying hi. I don't want to miss it. Lady Eversor has a blessed aura that prevents the vampires from getting too close. Yeah. I think, you know what? A good thought, Atlas. Lady Eversor is probably camped in Area 1. And we should say that. The gates, okay. Outside an encampment of, what were we calling them? I keep saying invaders, but intruders. Of 40 intruders, of an encampment of dozens of angry peasants and knights Knights gather around Lady and more to Eversor. Shouting for the downfall of the... What are they going to call them? Should we give them something to chant? Shouting for the downfall of the... What are they going to say? Like, what's a good catchphrase to be like, down with the vampires? Like, let's see. Oh, why are the vampires awake? They've been awakened by this rowdy mob that is far beyond their thrall's ability to deal with. Vanguard might be calling the name of a local priestess who has been kidnapped. Even more funny, what if no one's been kidnapped and that was the excuse that the knights used to rile this group of people up? Fang bangers. Is that from something? I feel like I've heard that one. The dark ones. The dark ones sounds like, that sounds like something that like a Dark Ages like superstitious person would be like yelling. The dark ones. For shouting down with the dark ones. Down with the dark ones. Does it have a good rhythm to it? Down with the dark ones. Yeah, it kind of does. Yeah, deception is very nightly. I honestly think that Lady Eversor would believe that she was doing the right thing and would not stoop to lies. So it's a cool idea. If we're talking about a corrupt group here, that would be a very cool idea. 2468, we are here to exterminate. That's really funny. Oh yeah, that's from True Blood. The other one. Fiends of the Shadows. Yeah, down with the dark fiends, dark ones, corrupt ones, dark ones. Dark ones is good because it's like 2 syllables and it's like very chantable. So we'll use that for now. Okay. So Lady Eversor is like outside the gates, right? She's not going to come in, unless probably confronted or unless the Vanguard's first defeated. So that gives us a little bit more control over pacing. Like, here's the thing. Smart vampires might wait till night to try to like press an attack against the encampment. We have to think of that. And as we work on this adventure, as I continue to write this out, we're going to make sure there's pressure on them during the day so that they can't just wait till nightfall. There's going to be invading forces. I think we're going to have an aggressive random encounter timeline, right? That's one thing that's baked into Shadowdark, where every X number of rounds you check for a random encounter. We might make random encounters more aggressive and exaggerated in this adventure because that's one of the ways that we can control pressure and tie it to the passage of time. So this would be the perfect situation where we're going to ramp up the random encounters. Miguel is asking, is there a torch timer? That's a great question, and that's something we want to address. We have basically the inverse of a torch timer in this situation, where we have player characters who can see in the dark because they're vampires, but they're sensitive to sunlight. So we need to instead of making darkness the enemy in this, we need to make light the enemy. We need to give the monsters access to things like holy spells or relics or like holy water or something that creates inverted time pressure using light on the characters. Yeah, so what we're doing is we're just taking all of our ordinary tropes and flipping them on their head here. Yeah. Oh, Coffee Mancer came up with another of many great ideas, and that is that peasants can throw bricks through windows, making a room sunlit when it wouldn't normally be. That could be something great to add to the random encounter table. Like when a random encounter occurs, it doesn't always mean it's a combat. It could be like random encounter. Oh, peasants throw bricks through a window. One outward facing room is now sunlit, you know, or they blow a hole in the floor. That, you know, we could even make it more like destruction caused by the peasants creates natural sunlight filling one room. This room is no longer safe for the vampires to linger in, you know, or, you know, or knock holes in floors, making a room sunlit when it wouldn't normally be. Yeah, and this is pinning them in. This is creating powerlessness and suspense. Like, you know, we're trying to ramp up pressure as time goes on and see if we can provoke the player characters into acting before nightfall. We're gonna have to try to get them to. Pablo, that's kind of you. Thank you. That's kind of you. What a nice comment. Wooden stake pit traps built by peasants. Oh, Steve. Yes. Peasants building wooden stake pit traps. Ooh, that is cool. That is cool. Like, yeah, they've come in and started doing this stuff. I love that idea. We're adding that to the list of ideas. So, yeah, we're already below 20 minutes in the amount of time we have left. Obviously, we're not going to get done fully designing this adventure, but the lessons we're taking away from our session here, I think are like, for all of us, this has been helping me write it, and I hope seeing the decisions made have been helping you guys, at least for how I write adventures. Everyone does it differently. Bumping the feed timer. Yeah, random event like dark clouds covering the sun. That's a cool one, Poor Kid. I like that because that is actually something that would give the vampires a brief advantage. And for that, we could create a real timer. That's actually a very, very cool idea. Random encounter. A cloud covers the sun. The vampires have we'll say 15 minutes of real time to act with impunity. I think that's really cool. That's really cool. Love it. Yeah, and it's like, oh my gosh, you guys, you have then we would set a torch timer, but it would be like a darkness timer. So I really like that idea. And we can decide how long feels right. That might be the kind of thing you discover in playtesting, but 15 minutes is great because they can do a quick thunder run into some of the areas that they're trying to clear out. Yeah, the old bucket of holy water over a doorway trap. Bucket of holy water over the doorway trap. Peasants making makeshift traps. I love it. Ooh, full-length mirrors. Full-length mirrors to see who's what. Yeah, peasants shooting wooden stakes. Yeah, so Brett brings up a good point. What? I can't talk. That when we arm a peasant with a wooden stake, we have now made that peasant a deadly threat to the vampires. So we should do so with, what's the word? Judgment. Most should have, I honestly think that most peasants should have one person in their group with a wooden stake. Oh, Black Lodge is asking, do the vampires have mortal servants like Renfield? I think they should, right? Or even undead servants, because this castle's been abandoned for a while. So why don't we add that to our idea list, mortal or undead servants of the vampires. You know, what role will they play? We'll have to think of that. You know, it could be we could bake something in each vampire has a mortal or undead servant who they can call upon once per session, where it's that person comes to their aid or something, or that group. Yeah, or you know, and maybe, you know, that's a really cool, that would be a very cool bit of additional flavor. Each vampire has a different minion who can come to their aid once. Not all are combat focused. You know, some might be peasants who can pose as victims, etc. Right? Right? Like we might have like vampire spawn peasants who are like, please come save me, I'm trapped in this room. And then they like ambush, characters. And by characters, I mean NPC characters, because the characters are the vampires. Could the vampires be kidnapping people from nearby towns? Maybe. Maybe one of the NPCs called upon could be a hostage, or a hostage of a local noble recently kidnapped. Could be an idea. I think the vampires have mostly been sleeping, but just little go-getters. Yeah, they can break mirrors or close curtains. Yeah, exactly. Just a little helper, like, Winfred, I need you to go close those curtains that are boiling me to death, like mid-combat. That's so true. Yeah, and I agree with Dwayne's idea here, is that like the servants could be a foil for what the vampire's strength is. So like the fighter vampire has a servant who's like some kind of minion-y, like little like, Igor, not a warrior. Yeah. So it would be very fun. It would be very fun to have that. They can call in their companion once per session. Otherwise, because here's the thing, action economy is something we protect very carefully in this game, and so we don't want it to be like your minions following you around and can also take an action on the turn you do. That gets really messy. It gets really difficult to like. It slows turns down if like each person is acting for 2 characters on their turn. It really pushes the action economy in favor of the characters, which can be bad. Like so we. The like once a session thing is kind of a way to simulate the assistance of an NPC without making them like a constant presence that throws off all of our carefully regulated things. Yeah, a roustabout. Yeah, that's like the class that Michael from Night Noon Games and I created. A roustabout is sort of a like character that never really rolled a high enough stat to be good at anything, but they're actually really fun to play. Roaming monster ideas. Oh, treasure hunter using this incident to loot. Yeah, like to take advantage. Yeah, great idea. So, roaming monster, treasure hunter using this as an opportunity to loot. Which gives me some additional ideas, like maybe there's some treasure in here that the vampires like stashed away that they need to try to get to that can help them. Like, oh yeah, I put my like combat sword upstairs in the decrepit the blighted chapel, and like shoot, I left it up there and I got to go up there and get it if I want my better equipment. So like have placed their best equipment around the castle and they need to go get it if they want to be more effective. So basically like that's their treasure, is like finding their old stuff, which brings us back to the lady who's got the cottage core room. We gotta put something crazy in there, like a bag of beans or something. A bag of badgers would be great. Yeah. Right, and we have to remember that their enemies will act with honor and dignity, and they can use that to their advantage. Like, yeah, like, I don't think that the invading forces will cheat. I don't think they'll be like, I'll throw down my weapon if you come turn yourself in. I think they would honor that, and then the vampires could be like, okay, fine, I'll turn myself in, and like bite them as soon as they get close. Like I think that we should lean into the fact that it will be fun for the players as vampires to like double cross and like be bad. Cool. No werewolves yet. Maybe there could be a werewolf. Werewolf? Question mark? Werewolf? Could be. Right. Yeah, the Elder Vampire Heart, something like that. Okay, so we've kind of like transitioned from like designing rooms into like coming up with ideas because we're gonna need these ideas for when I extrapolate out the rest of this adventure, which I really want to do. I actually think it'd be very fun to run this. I'm encouraged by how fun this has been. So I think I'll probably sit down and finish writing this out for us to use. JP, is there someone with a magic whip after the players? Now there is someone with a magic whip after the vampires. Ha! I would love for the vampires to get their hands on that whip. That would be fun. Like wouldn't it would be like the classic, like the Indiana Jones scenes where they had the entire choreography planned out, and then Harrison Ford had like a stomach virus and he didn't feel like doing it, so he just like took out his pistol and improvised like shooting the dude. Like, it would be very funny if the Castlevania character just got like ingloriously killed and their whip taken away by the vampires. Yeah, Byman Selmont. Exactly. That's what we'll call them. Okay, so what else should we try to think of? Why don't we look at our maps one more time? Let's look at what we have. We have a handful of rooms already designed, actually. Even in one sitting where we were talking our heads off the whole time, we got like a quarter of this adventure designed down. Yeah. Oh, Matisse Cooper is asking, do the vampires have a dad type figure? I think that they might choose amongst themselves who is like the leader vampire. And in my head, when I was designing the characters, I kind of took the Lady Marina Iyer to be like the leader vampire. She may not be, depending on how the PCs sort of hash out. I don't want to say who is. I think that they'll decide, but she was kind of the one who I imagined would be chosen as like a leader. One funny final thing to point out is that because all of these characters are vampires, they all have a minimum strength score of 14. The undead strength. So like even the wizard, who was this like rickety elf in life, is this like very physically strong character. Will the vampires ever scheme against each other, asks the friendly neighborhood inquisitor. Maybe. Like, why not? Maybe we should, the best way to get characters to scheme against each other is to make them both want the same piece of gear. That's really mean, but, perhaps as a sub note to number 13, cause inter-party scheming by making the same piece of gear cool to more than one vampire. Do we want to? Like, sometimes, so here's the thing, it's interesting, like, I usually don't encourage like inter-party strife, even when the character's all playing the bad guys, because that can like quickly devolve into like, ultimately Shadowdark is a teamwork based game. It has to be. And when you do stuff to harm that dynamic, it sometimes has like unintended consequences. So I think that we'll consider the idea of encouraging them to turn against each other, but I would more like to encourage them to just wipe out the goody two shoes good guys. So possibly, but tread with great care on this. Yeah, Black Lodge is saying whoever is hunting the vampires should be obnoxiously good. Yeah, like that's what I'm thinking. Like lawful stupid, the whole lawful good, lawful stupid. Like I think that the obnoxious paladin, there's something really fun about smacking them down. Like we have to admit that it can be really fun to be the bad guy sometimes. So let's let people be the bad guy. A nasty weapon in the hands of a major enemy could be, an aspergillum. Yeah, I forget how you pronounce that. But we just called it the sprinkler back when I was getting holy water smacked to the face en masse. Yep. Might as well throw He-Man in here. Yep, we could say important enemy weapon, aspergillum, fleeing holy water. And honestly, it would be fun to make new monsters with things like this as a weapon. Like we might merit a few custom monsters for this that, like, a pack of peasants with a bunch of aspergillums and a bucket of holy water. And JP is suggesting a second faction. Yeah, besides the peasants, maybe some fish people or something that want to take over the castle too. Yeah, that's actually a great thought. That's a great thought because, like another faction that has tried to move into the castle. Oh, while the vampires were dormant. Yeah, that'd be cool, right? Blood sommeliers. Yeah, realtors. Oh no. Realtors. Yeah, a necromancer. It would be so funny. This was a great idea, Matisse, for saying necromancer and then building on what JP said. I think what would be so funny would be a necromancer that feels they can control the undead and who's trying to control the vampires. We'll say like necromancer who moved in and thinks they can control the undead to their bidding, now trying to control the vampires and their servants. That would be so funny, like the right array of spells that allows them to like take control of and command undead. That would be hilarious. I love that idea. So demon cult. Yes, a demon cult trying to move in. A werewolf nest is always a classic, vampires versus werewolves, which would be pretty funny. So, well, all right. So we have like about under 5 minutes left. So, if we have any final ideas we want to throw out, I can share this document as is in the link chat afterwards, and then I'm gonna run with it and keep working on developing out some adventures. But I think that all of you in the chat too probably have tons of your own ideas. We've got all of our notes taken in here, and if you want to develop out this version of the adventure for your own table, like, you should run with it. We've got the basics of what we need. Now it's just about filling out the map, and I think this would be very fun to run for Halloween. So I'm gonna do my best to get something officially written out for this that people can use. But I'm just saying, if you've got your own ideas, don't wait for me, like, set this up for your table, use these player characters that we've supplied, and you can use the stats in the Shadowdark book to fill out things like basic monsters, enemies. There's priest, and there's an array of like NPC characters that would make great monsters in this book. And you can reference back to this video. I'll put it up where we talked about how would we set up a random encounters table, what kind of stuff would we put on it. I would personally do a random encounter check like once every 3 rounds or so, but I would have the likelihood increase by 1 on the die each time you check, and then when you trigger a random encounter, reset it. So like every 3 rounds you check, it's a 1 in 6 chance. And then 3 rounds later you check again, now it's a 2 in 6 chance. 3 rounds later you check again, now it's a 3 in 6 chance, and you trigger a random encounter, all right, it's back down to 1. And that means that is a way to increase the likelihood and pressure of random encounters without making it like really cumbersome to track, because we're still using the same ordinary cadence that we would normally use. So I'm gonna make a note of that up top too real quick. So random encounters, encounters. That'll be bold, this won't. Every 3 rounds. However, chance increases by 1 each time an encounter does not occur. Reset when 1 occurs. So, I don't know if I need to give an example. Did I spell this right? Yeah. And that way we'll have a higher frequency of random encounters, which is kind of needed in an adventure like this. Patty's Parlor, thank you for using the third-party license. Thank you to everybody in the chat. There are many people in the chat who have use Shadowdark's third-party license to write their own wonderful content of all different varieties and stripes, and I love to see it. So thanks for doing that. And please continue to do it, because it delights me to see what you all come up with. This adventure is all the stronger for having your input during the chat. You guys came up with these great ideas. I just wrote them down, and I really appreciate you all sharing your creativity with me and giving us all a really fun base to work off of with this Vampire Hunter adventure. So y'all, thanks again. We'll call the stream for now, and I'll put the link to this document up in the chat in the next couple of minutes here. So, okay, everybody, have a good weekend and a happy vampiric Halloween, everyone. All right, take care.